Morning, everybody. It's Kenny Lamons here with Medicare Millennials, and I am continuing trying to put out content over these next couple of months that is all around how do we get prepared for AEP, just from every different direction, whether we're talking about retention, marketing, which upline you should use, which products you might want to focus on. Today, the video is going to be around a hot topic that we're all concerned about, which is marketing leading up to AEP. Before we jump into it, I'm going to introduce my guest today. Just want to remind everybody, if you are looking for a consultation, if you click my website in the description below, I am taking scheduled consultations. No obligation for you to join the FMO I use for our consultations. That's why it's paid. So I'll just answer as an open book any of your questions, no strings attached for you. You can walk and work with who you want to. Let's jump into it. This is my friend Scott here. He actually turned me on to how to do T65 marketing better. And I've learned a lot from him over the last, whenever we met, year or two, just little things that he does successfully to market to T65. So Scott, will you just introduce yourself briefly, who you are in the business, and then how you ended up marketing this way and what your website is and stuff like that?
Sure. My name is Scott Shafran, of course. I've been in the Medicare business since 2010, technically. So back in 2010, got my license and really kind of went into that final expense market to start with. And then kind of along the way, I wrote my first med Supp, and just over the years, I did final expense mainly, but a Medicare policy every now and then. A couple years into it is when I really decided I wanted to focus on Medicare. Kind of flipped the switch from final expense to Medicare, and pretty much I've been doing that ever since.
How long ago was it that you flipped from, just roughly, from final expense mostly to Medicare?
Yeah, I'd say probably 2013, 2014. The problem with Medicare starting out, and I'm sure many of your viewers understand this, is you make enough money where maybe you could afford ramen. You can't go to McDonald's. You can't even afford that because Medicare does not pay much in the beginning. So I had to do something else to kind of build up the funds. So I did final expense, and then I also, for a while there, I sold roofing and siding.
Mm-hmm.
So that was back in Columbus, Ohio, and I'd go around, I'd door knock. We would do all kinds of different things. We would sell roofing and siding, really until the Medicare business. I didn't want to leave that until the Medicare business was about 6 figures in and of itself on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got to that point, that's when I said, okay, I don't need to go climb on roofs anymore. I don't need to go sell the siding anymore. I can go ahead and just, keep it straight Medicare. So I'd say I built it pretty slow compared to some people. But everyone's journey is a little bit different in this industry, and that's pretty much how I did it.
Man, I love hearing a story like that. So when I got started in the business, and I got licensed in 2014 and kind of got started in 2015 doing final expense, slowly started selling ancillary products to Medicare beneficiaries, then med Supps, and about 3.5, 4 years ago, finally Med Advantage and everything kind of became a thing. But along that way, I delivered pizzas. I drove for basically an old version of Uber Eats.
Okay.
I worked summers, different places. I took on a credit card debt when I was trying new leads. Not that everyone has to do that, right? Like if you get plugged in with a good FMO, like a good mentor, you may be able to avoid that. But what's cool about Medicare is, like me, I'm guessing like a lot of others, you saw the long-term vision. Like,
exactly,
this could be so good. I'll do whatever it takes to get there. If that takes 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, it's going to be worth it.
Right. Yeah. My thought initially starting out, which it's kind of funny now, but I used to think, man, if I could make $2,500 a month in Medicare, I'm going to be set. Obviously now with 5 kids and all that and inflation, and I mean, that won't do it for most people, but I remember thinking that's what I need, and then it was, well, once I get 1,000 clients, and then, you get there, and then you want to go a little bit beyond that, I think. But that's kind of where everyone, you kind of have these goalposts that you want to set, and you want to keep going towards it and go from there.
So did you early on in Medicare focus more Med Supp or Med Advantage, and has that changed?
Yeah, good question. So I would say back in like 2012 through about 2016, it was heavier Med Supp. And even thinking back so I used to live in Columbus, Ohio. Now I'm in Eastern North Carolina, but even going back in time, back to Columbus, back in those days, we had maybe 1 or 2 Medicare Advantage plans that was 0 premium. If you go all the way back to like 2012. And then I remember when we got our very first 0 premium PPO, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel because everyone was excited about, wow, we have a 0 premium PPO. Now, if you look in Columbus, Ohio, there's like 20 different plans that are 0. I mean, the Medicare Advantage market has just grown, and we've gotten so much better plans that I think the market has shifted more towards the Medicare Advantage as far as them offering plans that are attractive to people. So you go back in time, they weren't as attractive.
100%. And when I started selling final expense, even in late 2014, early 2015, it was, well, I live near DFW, so I think the Medicare Advantage market matured a little faster because how big it is. Even though I lived in a rural area outside, it kind of bleeds over. It was still a lot more Med Supp, and we were taught by our agency, like, stay away from Medicare Advantage. There were a lot of horror stories around commissions. Like, my owner had built a large Medicare Advantage book, and then maybe kind of like ACA happened where they quit doing commissions for a while.
Okay.
So anyway, there was still just like a lot of negative. It took years for me to finally decide that it would be worth selling Medicare Advantage. Now we'll see if it continues to be worth it after all these changes coming down the pike, but it's a good business.
It is a good business. Right.
And I really like my Med Supp book because it's so occasionally you get in trouble with PDPs, but it's so hands off.
Right.
Like, I have Med Supps that that I sold probably in 2015 that I'm not even probably getting 1% commission on now because it drops, but that I never heard from. Like, I still send them a postcard and everything, but they're happy. You get that a little bit in Med Advantage, but there's usually at least once a year phone call.
Right. Yeah. You don't get as much service calls with the Med Supp. I 100% agree with that. One thing we're doing right now is like the Med Supp book, essentially trying to encourage that reshopping of the Med Supp policy. So like this year, what I've done is I've taken my Med Supp block, and like every month I'll send out maybe a couple hundred emails to that block, basically saying, okay, it's time to review your Med Supp policy. The reason for that is I don't want to do that during AEP. So during AEP, I'm trying to avoid my price went up $35 back in June. I want to hit that now so that we're doing the Med Supp.
You can focus on Med Advantage only during the open enrollment.
That's the plan.
And then, of course, if let's just say you had 100 call-ins for Med Supp for an easy number, and 70 of them were good.
Right.
10 of them you needed to flip for price reasons and they were healthy enough. And then the other 20 needed a new PDP. So you put them in the pipeline for AEP.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
No, that's a great strategy. So let's get into actually selling policies. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we all know, and I tell people this all the time, I don't care what FMOs hate me for this. Most FMOs love to sell on how much they can train you, and we have Sunfire. Ooh,
Yeah.
we have this, we have that, and we have this fancy office. And at the end of the day, people don't know how to get in front of people. Like, right? Like, they're not allowed to door knock for Medicare, which is how I basically got started. Direct mail leads. I'm just going to show up and door knock at your house.
Yeah.
You know, so many rules around the calls. If you sell over the phone, you're competing with call centers. I'm not trying to sound all doom and gloom, new agents. Listen, I'm just saying we're sold this opportunity, but we don't talk a whole lot about how you're actually going to get in front of people, right? And so what's your favorite way to get in front of Medicare clients or to get on the phone with them? How has that evolved? And what's that look like for you now?
So right now, as far as advertising for AEP, just where I'm personally at, I've got around 1,400 active clients. So I'm not trying to grow the book exponentially at this point, but I have a really good base to get referrals from. So in the beginning of AEP, we'll send out a letter, and I don't remember who I learned this from, but they said put in like 5 business cards. And that kind of makes it where it's almost like assumed or expected that they're going to hand out maybe 1 or 2 of your business cards. So we'll send out a letter right before AEP starts to that whole entire list, and we'll insert 5 business cards into every single letter, just a referral letter. You know, open enrollment's coming up. We help you with your policy, but we're also willing to help others with their policies. You know, feel free to give them my card, have them give me a call. And that really helps get those referrals in during open enrollment. The downside is that's not going to help the new agent quite as much. So if we were to go back in time, you know, doing some direct mail during AEP is helpful. Really keeping your pipeline clean is helpful. So you talk with someone in June, and you know they have XYZ carrier, and they're not happy with it. Well, keep them in your pipeline and make sure you're following up with them, trying to flip them during open enrollment if they weren't able to flip in June. So a lot of it's just keeping up with your leads, if that makes sense.
So that's always been a brilliant way for me to have AEP leads, what you mentioned, which is just all of the people, whether it be a med supp who they would like to go to a Medicare Advantage and you keep them in the pipeline, whether it be a somebody who is currently on the best plan they could be Medicare Advantage wise, but that might change during AEP. Or, back in the day when there actually used to be limitations to SEPs and you missed the open enrollment, you want to do it on the next one. That doesn't really exist anymore. Anyone can change it anytime for any reason, pretty much.
The tree fell over there. We're going to give you an SEP.
That's right. You can always find an SEP. I don't remember the last time since COVID, it's been an open SEP.
Yeah.
That's a whole different podcast. So we'll stick to this. But filling your pipeline up. But then you've got to do something throughout the year steadily to create this pipeline. So some people do seminars, which I've begun doing again, mostly because they're fun. And I just like doing them once a month. Some people do generic direct mail, right? And so just that gives you more volume, hypothetically, maybe even a little bit cheaper, potentially. You can do various Facebook leads, right? And so just your regular, hey, do you want more extra benefits Facebook lead? That's a lower quality, higher volume lead. There's local marketing. So you're out and about in the community, out chamber meetings, senior centers, YMCA, Silver Sneakers, workout facilities, doctor's offices, so on and so forth. Great. But you like to focus on, correct me if I'm wrong, T65s, and you like them to call you. So how does that work?
Yeah. So I'd say once I hit around 400 Medicare clients, that's where I said, okay, I don't know if I want to say I got lazy, but I kind of got lazy. And I said, I don't really want to chase people all the time to build my book. And so that's when I started sending out letters to people who were turning 65. I have done the more generic direct mail pieces where you do get higher response rates on those. But I said, I want people to actually call me, or I want them to send me an email. Back then, they couldn't really do Calendly, or at least I didn't have it. But now it's like, or I want them to go on my Calendly and just directly set an appointment. So I will market out roughly 8 months in advance, and we'll send out anywhere from 5 to 7 letters to those people in my local market. So I'm not mailing people, an hour and a half drive away. I'm mailing people 25 minutes away. And I do have a local office that people can come into. So that does help me, where it may not help other agents quite as much. But even before I had an office, I would put on there, I can meet you in a coffee shop. I can come to your home. We can talk over the phone. We have options to get in touch. So, and what I like about turning 65 marketing is once you have that person as a client, if you do well, and if you keep them, and service them and all that, their spouse is going to turn 65. Their neighbors are going to turn 65. They're going to have referrals, and if it's a Med Supp policy, you don't have that underwriting. You have more competition when they're turning 65, but I think the payout long term is better because you should be able to keep them on the books for a long time.
So a couple of things you pointed out there. I've tried to get this across to people. And I think for brand new agents, the thing is just they're limited on funds. And I think you really do have to spend more money and time on P65s. But you mentioned a couple of things like the spouse turning 65, right? Like on average, the referral from somebody that you sold when they turned 65 is just much higher. Like that they're going to... It may be their other friends who retire from the same company. It may be, they tend to be more active, right? So if you get a lead that's 76, that's just sitting in their house all day, they're not active in a community as often, and so they don't refer as much.
Yeah. If you think about it, when you're working with a turning 65, you're helping them pick that policy, but you're also helping them with setting up Medicare. You're helping them understand what Medicare A and B even is. You're helping them with understanding what Medicare Advantage, Med Supp is. You're helping them with all of those things. So I think they remember you more than the person who is maybe age 71 and you flipped them because, their current dental had 1,500 and you flipped them to a dental with 2,000, on a Medicare Advantage. They don't remember you as much.
Nope, for sure. I couldn't. And so that goes back to, okay, you get paid more upfront.
Right.
You get more referrals. Well, and even I would argue if you are selling Med Supp, I will gladly sell the carrier that's offering a bonus on open enrollment business if possible. Okay.
Sure.
To help catch up that commission there. But then also you think about it, if you get somebody at 65, you may get 20 years of renewals out of them.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm still getting paid on some business from back in 2010, some Medicare Advantage business from back then.
That's wild.
So it's 14 years later, and I'm still making money off of that. So this business is really, you have to think long term. You have to think long term with it.
So the other aspect to a T65 too, just while we're on this, is and not everybody has to do this, but if you want to cross-sell and you need to cross-sell, in my opinion, it's easier to cross-sell them because a lot of times they're actually losing other benefits at work. Right. So maybe they lose most of their life insurance benefits. Well, whether you sell them a larger policy or a final expense policy, it's a great time. Like they're making their transition budget-wise. So they kind of look at their budget and they say, okay, that's important to me. I want the med sup, I want a cancer plan, and I want a burial policy. Like,
Right.
let's set this in. It'll fit in my budget, and we'll lock, you can cross sell. Or me, even, I don't do a lot of these, but 4 or 5 a year, I'll sell an annuity, usually just a fixed annuity,
Okay.
nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Like a MIGA, a multi-year guaranteed annuity.
Yeah.
And what it will be is somebody who is either rolling a 401k over, like it's usually 100 grand or something, right? A couple $100,000. Or they have money sitting in a savings account. Well, a MIGA is great for them because I'm like, the way that you sell it is it's kind of like a CD and
Okay.
anyway.
Right.
So those opportunities are much more common with T65s than with older clients. So
right. I would agree.
The list goes on and on why they're the most valuable clients.
Yeah. One other thing that I want to talk just a little bit about, like people turning 65, that I think most agents miss is you're going to get people who are still working. So someone's turning 65, they're getting all kinds of mail. They're still working. They still have good employer coverage, but they call you or they email you or whatnot, and you talk with them. Every single one of those, I think, is gold in the future.
Yep.
So you help them set up Part A. You ask them when roughly they think they're going to retire. I'm going to retire in 4 or 5 years. Okay. Then you keep them in your system. I use Zoho CRM. I don't know what a lot of agents use out there, but I use Zoho CRM where I'll put in a task like 9 months in the future, and I'll say, write them a follow-up letter. And it's a very simple, hey, I talked with you in June of 2024. You were still working. We helped you set up Part A. You indicated you're probably going to retire in 2026. Just wanted to check and see if everything's still kind of on that path. If you need anything, just let me know. So you're just kind of staying in front of them. I've written so much business off of doing that. And it's a simple, just a simple follow-up letter or email every 9 months to a year. And it's really easy to do.
Couldn't agree more. That's super simple. I use Medicare Pro CRM.
Okay.
Zoho is probably more flexible. Medicare Pro is a little easier
because
it's made for Medicare agents. But what people ask me when they've done T65 mailers, well, aren't you going to get a lot of wasting your time with people that still work? And it's like, dude, for one, I always ask, like, well, how much do you pay for your employer coverage? Like, is it just you on it? You'd be shocked how often they actually say, oh, no, I'm just going to get on Medicare.
That's true. That's becoming more and more common too.
And if they don't, you don't, it's a free, nobody else was willing to give them that information.
Exactly.
If they get called by a call center, I've had this happen a million times. I know it's true. These call centers, all they do is tell that person, you're going to get a penalty if you don't enroll in Medicare right now. And they're going, wait, I'm confused. I thought I could keep. Now they're confused. So if they finally talk to you, they trust you because I say, no, ma'am, or no, sir, you have credible coverage. You check these boxes. You are welcome to stay where you're at until you're ready to retire. Then call me. They're going to call you.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. So that's gold in the future. Don't forget
that's that. Right. And that's the pipeline we're talking about. Everything doesn't have to be instant gratification in this business.
Right.
In fact, if you are an instant gratification person only, you might go sell final expense. You can get a ton more instant gratification from final expense. And you're gonna eat a lot better the first year.
That's true.
Okay, so let's talk about your service that you offer.
Sure. Yeah.
What does that look like and what makes it stand out? Anything you want to share that would be helpful. And anything you verbally share, I'll make sure that I put on the screen for people and in the description.
Okay.
So don't worry about repeating yourself too much. I'll make it visible.
So the website's t65inbound.com. So T65 Inbound. And basically the service is we will get the letters ready for you. We will do the printing. We'll do the stuffing, the stamping. We'll send it all out. And it's essentially a done for you service. Additionally, we'll do the scheduling of the campaign. So for example, it's July, probably by the time this comes out, August of 2024. Maybe you want to do a campaign for people turning 65 in February or March of 2025. So those in 1960 birthdays. So what we would do is we would take that list of people and we would schedule out a campaign for you. We typically do things a little bit differently. We recommend a smaller radius. So if you're doing T65 marketing, you don't want to, you can, but you're not going to get as high of a return if you're marketing an hour and a half away from your home or office as you will when you're marketing 25 minutes away. So we'll take that smaller list and we'll mail that list, 5 to 7 times, or however many times you want. If you only want to do 2 or 3, that's up to you. But we recommend like 5 to 7 times as a good way of marketing for people turning 65. And each letter they get is a little bit different. So the first letter they get is going to be a little bit different than the second letter, a little bit different than the third letter, and they kind of all build on each other. And it's just kind of recognition of, okay, this guy's or this lady's emailed me 4 different times. The letters are kind of have some humor in them. It's not high pitch type letter. It's basically letting them know you offer Medicare plans, you're a human, you're local, and they can give you a call. So that's kind of our service that we offer for people. Per letter, we're anywhere from about 80 cents to maybe 87 cents per letter. All the pricing's on the website, and of course changes every now and then.
So just to be clear, this is going out to people turning 65.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. These are letters, okay?
They're letters.
So it's a envelope letter. And just to clarify, it is personalized to this agent and where they live, right?
That's correct.
Any Lamans in the Fort Worth area.
Yep. So the return address is your return address. And then, of course, it's going to them. We have 2 different kinds of envelopes we'll use. We'll either use just a plain white envelope, and it'll have like a handwritten type font on the front. The other type of envelope we'll use is like a double window envelope, and the agent can kind of pick which way they want to do, or a variety of the 2 styles. Every letter has a real stamp on it. We're still mailing out at the reduced rate with the Postal Service, of course, but it looks like a real, regular, everyday stamped envelope.
Got it. So is this something that hypothetically and ideally an agent that wanted to do this, I know that you don't require a contractor or anything, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
But for any level of success, this is something they need to be doing monthly, correct? Like they need to pay for this monthly and allow your service behind the scenes to be every month mailing this out.
Right.
So what would you say for an agent to really get an idea if this was going to work? How long do they need to say, all right, I'm going to be willing to spend this amount of money roughly? I know it can vary greatly.
Yeah.
Monthly for this many months before they could really get an idea if it was the best marketing.
Yeah. So I'll kind of go back to that example. We're coming up on August, and maybe someone does a February or March campaign. So maybe they do a March campaign. Really, you're not going to know until March whether or not that was, enough sales to, justify the amount that you paid on the marketing. A good rule of thumb that I use and that I recommend for agents to use is you should be able to get your first year commission out of what you're spending on your mailing. So let's say you spend, $1,200 on mail. You should be able to sell at least 2 Medicare Advantage policies off of that. And that pays for that pays for the mailing out of your first year commission. And again, thinking long term, you're going to get some referrals out of that. You may sell more than that 1,200, but that's kind of a good baseline. So if you're not doing that, then maybe restrict your area to smaller, increase the frequency, do something to modify it to make it work.
So at a minimum, you're aiming to gain pay for the marketing out of your first year commission, and
Yep.
essentially you're buying the renewal, you're buying your
Correct.
book of business.
Yep.
But if you cross sell and you know,
You got
maybe
it.
your area is pretty receptive, it can certainly be profitable early on.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mine typically, for where I personally mail, I usually have a really good return on it, but I've been in this area for several years, so that helps to just for that local presence that I've got.
Okay. And what would you say? Okay, let's say we've got a newer agent that wants to do this. Is this something, if they have the budget, maybe they can spend $1,000 a month on this, maybe whatever that number is, and then they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm certainly not going to get a call for at least a month or so.
Right.
Minimum.
Absolutely.
Maybe they like they have a local organic strategy, right?
Yep.
So they're like, I'm going to go by every 55 plus apartment complex. I'm going to go by all my local doctor's offices. I'm going to go by all of my, I'm going to go to every chamber meeting. So like daily, like how do they stay busy? Because they can't just sit there when they don't have renewals and do nothing.
Right. So this is your inbound section of your business. You should still be doing things outbound to try to generate business when you're brand new. So if you're sitting on 1,000 clients, maybe you're not doing as much outbound marketing and you're just letting the inbound work in the background. But if you're new and you've got 150 clients, you're not making good money yet, you should still be doing activity to try to bring in leads and try to get in front of people and talk with people.
I think what I like best about your service is that I mail out postcards.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it just, for whatever reason, in my specific area, I've wasted a lot of money trying a lot of different mailers. And I feel like that's what gets me to stand apart the most right here.
Mm-hmm.
However, first of all, Dallas-Fort Worth is kind of like Fort Lauderdale. It's just inundated with, it's like a mecca of Medicare sales from these big organizations.
Yeah.
It's annoying. Like there's other parts of the country that just don't get the type of pressure.
Right.
This does.
I'd say my area probably doesn't get much pressure. So that helps. Yeah.
So some places you have to stand out differently or more. Yep. But here's what I like about that. I tried too many things that I didn't know if they worked, and they didn't. And I also had to spend all this time, like agents ask me all the time, where do I get my list? How do I create my postcard? And I'm like, dude, I just fiddled with it. And, like I can give them an answer, but it's like, there's a lot of work involved with that. And then agents end up spending time like messing with things that are irrelevant. Like, do I need a Canva subscription? Let me play with this. What should my messaging look like? If you're a new agent and you have a little extra funds you can commit to monthly, a service like Scott's is the best for you. Wait until that way you can spend 100% of your effort out marketing yourself locally. Create your inbound portion of your business. And as your book grows, if you want to get more creative and more niche and more, you think there's something that will work uniquely in your market, then try that.
Right.
But most likely, if you're a newer agent, you just want stability and tried and true. Right. And so I think what makes these letters so good is that you're mailing them early and often. So at the end of the day, you're local, early, and often. So a certain number of people, after they see the third one's going to go, I got to call one of these. This one's local. Let me just go ahead and do it.
Yep. And it's unashamedly, okay, why did we stand out? Because we're local. So you get the business just because of where you live? Yes, that's correct. And you should know what you're doing, of course, but nobody else lives where you live. So get that local business. Yeah.
That's great. So I'm going to make sure when people go to your website, is there going to be like a contact button or a place order button?
So they can go in, they can see pricing on the website. They can play around with the order form on the website. They can email me. The email address, it's contact@t65inbound.com if they have questions after reading the website. If they want to see samples of the letters, we can send those over to them. So any of that is good to use.
And I would just tell you guys, hey, those of you that are watching, maybe you're an experienced agent, you're wanting to, but you've always done leads, you want to develop your inbound portion of your business. This is for you.
Yeah.
If you're a new agent that would like to start out on the right foot generating T65 leads and you've got the budget, this may be for you. If you're a brand new agent and hey, I've been there, this isn't to be rude, but you have no extra money for marketing, you need to do things like tooth and nail, this isn't for you, because you need to be able to commit several $100s up to a couple $1,000s monthly for multiple months, regardless of the outcome, for this to work out for you. Is that fair?
That's, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to wrap this up, Scott, I bet this has been helpful for me just talking through some of this to you. What would you share in general leading up to this AEP specifically? If you're on a podium and a few hundred Medicare agents are going to watch this over the couple of months, what tips would you have just in general? Maybe. Yeah, in general.
So I would say the number one thing you can do, you take care of your clients, make sure they're satisfied with what they have, make sure that you're doing the right thing by them. So if you already have an existing book, you have to take care of your book, because by doing that, you will grow. You will get referrals. I mean, if you're providing a good service and you're not getting referrals, maybe you're not providing a good service. So you have to get some referrals from that existing book. And then from there, really just do what you can to get in front of new people, whether it's Facebook leads or direct mail leads, or even sending out some kind of postcard locally, generic, hey, it's open enrollment, give us a call. We can help. Doing things like that to get in front of people. And every time you get in front of people, think long-term. You have to think long-term in this business. So you could have that business for the next 5-10 years. You could be 14 years later still getting paid from that one person you sold back in 2024. And you have to remember that you can make that long-term financial gain from these sales.
Sidebar, do you think that the proposed agent increase commission by $100 and $50 respectively it didn't get stomped down. Nobody said, it just got put on a stay,
right? So
that the court could review, like, does this make sense? Like, right. And so do you think ultimately that's going to end up happening, or that this fight against CMS has already started out successful and they're going to do something entirely different?
Good question. And that's probably above my pay grade.
Yeah,
my guess is that it probably will not go through. That's my best guess, is that we're not going to get that extra 50, which really stinks. But I've heard some people say it's good, because if they had passed that, especially on drug plans, then all commission goes to zero. So in that sense, I'd rather have 50 a month, or 50 a month. That'd be great on a drug plan.
We'd be doing good.
We'd be doing good. 50 a year on a drug plan rather than a zero. 100 would have been nice, but I'd rather have 50 than zero. So that's probably a good political non-answer, because I just don't know. But if I had to guess, it's not going to go through.
Yeah.
Well,
if that doesn't go through, do you think there will be some concession on FMOs and carriers being able to pass through some additional marketing dollars in some form or fashion?
Yeah, still? I do. So, yeah.
Okay, because technically right now, I actually get about what they're proposing anyway.
Right.
So it was going to be a wash for me, but I think it's only fair. I don't like the distribution. I think that they need to choke the FMOs a little bit, to where maybe it's not a viable business for you to have 2 agents under you and a million GAs out there, right? Like,
right.
I think they need to squeeze the FMOs a little bit, give a little bit more to the agent, but also expect more out of the agent in return for that.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion, I mean.
One of the things I've said, and I think is true, is that one of the things I liked about the extra commission is then it's not based on winning what I call the FMO lottery. So you have one agent under an FMO that's more sharing of money, and then you have another agent who's under an FMO who's not as sharing of money. So winning that FMO lottery, how do you know, or whatnot? So I think when it's tied to just your commission, then I think that's more fair in the long run, because you sell the policy, you get the money.
Well, and then also the FMO has to sell value instead of buying. Now, I have respect for FMOs that just buy their agents.
Yeah.
You know what? At least you're giving them cold hard cash,
Right.
right?
That's true. Yep.
Throw your cards on the table. I at least can respect you for that.
Right.
There's nothing worse than an FMO that just doesn't want their agents to know that money. And they say things like this: there's not that kind of money on the table.
Right.
And then you find out later, like, you were not getting any marketing money. No, that's what we need to stop. Like, just put the cards on the table. Everybody knows what they're getting.
Right. Right.
And you have to sell me on the value you bring from like a recruiting, marketing, contracting perspective, which is the way it's supposed to be.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, dude, this has been a great video, Scott. I will make sure and put your website.
Okay, great.
And your
Thank you.
personal self. No, I'm just kidding. I'll put your website and stuff in the description.
Okay.
And I think you shared some really helpful things for me. So I know a lot of my agents will. Maybe we can have another video in the future. And I appreciate you being on, man.
All right. Thank you. All right. You have a good one. Thank you.
All right. See ya.